Welcome to Caldwell County Today. I'm Paige Counts, Public Information Officer for Caldwell County. Joining me today is LaWanda Knox, Casey Pewitt, and Joy Grandy, and these ladies are joining us from Social Services, Department of Social Services. I almost said Health Department. I don't know why. I know where you're from. And they're here to talk about National Adoption Month. LaWanda, you're sitting here beside me, so I'm start with you.
Okay.
What is National Adoption Month?
Every year, the country celebrates adoption. And I'm not quite sure why November was chosen, but it was. And so there's a National Adoptions Day that we celebrate on usually the third Saturday of November. And then today is actually International Adoptions Awareness Day. So we're here to help celebrate and highlight the need for adoptive parents in Caldwell County.
I'm just going to throw this out to anybody. What is the need in Caldwell County?
Well, currently we have probably 20 children whose plan is adoption, and we don't have adoptive homes for them because they're older. We have a great need for school-age children and teenagers and maybe sibling groups as well. So unfortunately, we have to go out of county and place those children, if we can find a home, away from their community. And that's sad for us and sometimes sad for them as well.
Unfortunately, the majority of children who are in foster care awaiting adoptive homes are teenagers. And it's just across the board, people are more reluctant for teenagers, and they're scared. A lot of them are, not really realizing the supports that are available to them and how desperately this population needs support and needs people to care about them and love them.
You mentioned support to adoptive families. Mm-hmm. Talk about some of those.
We do work with Success Coach out of Catawba County. It's a post-adoption service that's available to any family that has adopted children. LaWanda and I make referrals to them once a child is adopted, and we no longer do in-home visits, but that program takes over and works with the adoptive family in the home.
And as you were talking about a child being in their community, and I imagine for children, especially high school children, moving out of that community can be quite difficult. Can you speak to that and the importance of having someone here?
I am working with a young lady who had some trauma, and adoption was her plan. And she was afraid to be adopted anyway, so she said, oh, well, I want to be adopted in this school district. Well, when you talk about a specific school district, that so narrows our options for her. So we've been working with her and her therapist and her support system to say, hey, there may be other opportunities, but it's her senior year, and I can understand she wants to graduate with her class that she's been with for the past 4 years. So the fact that we can't help find an adoptive home so she can graduate with her class, and she would like to go to the community college in her area, that's what we mean.
How long do you follow children post-graduation?
That is another program. Once they graduate or turn 18, then there is an option for them to do to stay in foster care so that they do have that support. That's 18 to 21. And we do have a social worker who works with that population to make sure that they have the support they need to get them through 21. Usually Joy and I, as adoption social workers, don't follow children.
Certainly.
But primarily what we want to do is raise awareness of children who are waiting for permanent homes. Everyone deserves to have people who love them unconditionally and support them. You think about trials that you go through in your life and the people that you reach out to that you just wouldn't know what to do without them. And we need to create that support system for our children. We need adoptive homes so these kids can know the unconditional love, the acceptance, the support when you're 30 years old and you come home because, your boss fired you. And a lot of them, if we do not find them adoptive homes, if we can't create that as a support environment, they don't have that resource. And I just think, where would I be if I didn't have that?
How do people become adoptive parents? I mean, do you start with adoption? How do you get involved?
Our agency is not an adoption agency. Our children primarily come from foster care, so children who have been removed from their homes and for some reason or another cannot be reunified with their parents. The cases we work tend to go that way. So a lot of the adoptive parents we work with were initially foster parents. So that's how we become involved. Now, people who do want to adopt younger children or children who are legally free and they don't want to risk having to work reunification efforts with a parent, or a parent who's still involved, sorry, I said that weird. They can reach out to adoption agencies, and there's multiple around, and we can give them that information. But primarily ours comes from children who are in foster care who have been placed with foster parents.
So you primarily are getting foster parents to adopt. Am I understanding that
Yes.
correctly?
And then for some children, we'll do more specific recruitment. If they've been in foster care and the placement for some reason does not wish to adopt, or they've been in group homes, congregate care. Children who are in group homes and congregate care, it's an opportunity to actually recruit and locate adoptive homes for them.
So really a lot of ways to get involved. And you mentioned first step for the children you were talking about, it's often through foster care. And I know that you're not the foster care branch of DSS, but how does someone become a foster parent? High level. I'm not asking for specifics here.
Well, they can contact DSS at 828-426-8200 and ask for Valerie Ackerman, who is our licensing social worker, and she can give them the information they need to become a licensed foster parent or home.
And there's billboards, we've got signs out everywhere. We are recruiting very heavily for foster parents. There is such a need in this community. It's not fair that our children keep having to go out of county to find homes because there's not enough homes in this area.
As a person who works with adoption with DSS, what do you say to people when you're asked about becoming a foster parent or an adopted parent? How do you encourage them?
I usually tell them you don't have to be, have a certain amount of money, but you have to have a big heart. And you have to want to support that child and know that every child deserves to have someone, as Casey talked about, to be their own and to be their support. And try to dispel some of the stereotypes and the things that people think they need to be. We've had some people who say, oh, I have to be married or I have to have a big house. And those are things that aren't true. And so we try to recruit and say, oh, but we have this child or we have these children, or come to an interest meeting and see if this is something you think you could do.
And I could actually speak to that, being a former foster parent and adoptive parent. Basically, LaWanda recruited me through the adolescent parenting program when she was over that program. I worked with an 18-year-old who had a 3-year-old, and I fostered that young lady and eventually got my foster parent license through Caldwell County DSS and eventually adopted. And a lot of folks really, when I went out and helped do recruitment through Caldwell County, they didn't understand that you could be a single parent, which is what I was. One income, did not make a lot of money. I actually fostered 4 kids at the same time and adopted 1. So you don't have to have a lot of money. You don't have to be married. Those are just some of the myths that people, believe that you have to. And it's just having a big heart and love and wanting to see the children succeed. And that's, my daughter, Casey mentioned, when they're 30, coming back home. She's 34 and she'll be back home with 2 grandkids. So that's something that they really do need. They need that support ongoing through life.
And a lot of our adoptive families and a lot of our foster placements are relatives. And a lot of them choose to license and later on will adopt. So that's one of the things our agency does really well, is seeking out relative placements for kids to try to keep them as connected as possible while keeping them safe. Unfortunately, the older children are, for some reason, those options aren't as available to them.
And as I'm sitting here listening and learning, I feel like there's probably some myths about older children that, and a stigma that make people go, no, if I get a baby, that I can raise them in my home, in my environment, and it will be easier. And I don't know that that's necessarily true. I mean, this is just my train of thought here.
Right.
So, I mean, am I right? Is that something that you
Yes.
hear a lot?
Oh,
Yes.
absolutely.
People are afraid. One of my favorite foster parents came in and he was like, I do not want teenagers and I do not want girls. And he ended up adopting 2 teenage girls. So, yes. And he came in with that stereotype of teenagers. But, I always kind of think, because teenagers were some of the favorite kids on my caseload, it's like, I know the behaviors. They are good or bad or ugly. They give it to you. And it's like, and I can respect that. That's what it is. And you deal. I mean, just like with everything in life, you get a new job, you learn to deal in that environment. You just do.
What do you say to people when they ask you, because you're in a tough spot, all 3 of you are in a tough spot, and our social workers face very difficult situations. You have very good days and very bad days. When people ask you about your role as a social worker in adoption, what do you tell them? And I'm going to throw that out to each one of you.
Well, I refer to our unit, or join myself, as the closer, because families and children have been involved with us usually a year or more. And when they see the adoptions worker coming, the children know that this will probably be the last social worker they have to deal with. And the adoptive family feels the same way. So we go in and usually when they see us, they have a smile on their face because they know that the wait is almost over. We're going to make them a legal part because we know emotionally they've been a part of the family. So I think that we get to see or experience those families coming together. We do adoption celebrations with the judge, and it's always a warm feeling. And when they reach out to you to say, hey, here's some pictures, or just want to update you, they may not do that with all the workers, but it is gratifying to me when they do that. I just got some pictures yesterday of a set of twins. They sent me the pictures of them in their Halloween costume, and it was nice.
What shocks me is they remember everybody. And I'm like, how do you know this? Oh, don't you remember? That was in 2003, and it was this little da-da-da-da, and I'm just,
And they lived in this little house.
yes,
I know.
But then they moved to da-da-da, and then they moved to da-da-da, but she went to school here, and I'm like, no.
I think for us too, when we go in and we say to them that it's not going to be a continuum of care, we won't be in your home monthly after the adoption is finalized, I think we get a bigger smile. But we also let them know that until the child is 18, we are available to them. We don't do necessarily post-adoption services, but we do provide, resources and referrals for them if they need it. So that's one of the things that we say to them that they're very appreciative of.
And I think that's another myth people have, is that adopting is expensive.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you are adopting children who are in foster care, there are benefits available, and it's not expensive at all for you.
And something I'm always surprised about, every time I do an interview, especially with DSS folks, I'll find, oh, well, I'm an adoptive parent or I'm a foster parent. You see people's heart I mean, it's in their job. They do it because they care. I think all of you could say that. I do this because I care. This is not something that you know, it takes that heart.
I would agree. And I would say that our social workers are the same way. And they come into the job knowing that long hours and maybe not appreciated, but it's that smile, it's that little thank you, it's doing fun things like our Christmas party that's coming up for our children in foster care. Those are the things that help the hard times not be so hard.
So one more time before we close out, if people want to get involved, probably the first step is by becoming a foster parent.
Yes.
I mean, it's from the DSS perspective. And you can do that by calling, finding out when an interest meeting is.
Right.
So that's the step for people out there who have that spark and go, maybe that's what I want to do in the new year.
Yes.
And even if you can't, or because I really want people to know themselves, you need to know yourself, you need to know your family, because some people have really big hearts, but it's like you have to have the right agenda is not what I want to say, but you have to be able to do it. And there's factors that affect people that doesn't make them able to do it. But there's not just foster parenting. If you want to get involved, we've got other things available. We've got some people who provide respite only just to give people a break. We've got some people who are, hey, if you want us involved in LINKS, which is our program that helps children 14 to 21? Learn life skills and stuff. And so we've got some organizations, and not organizations, we got some people who will call and say, hey, I want to teach a cooking class. Hey, can I teach how to change a flat tire? There's so much more. Some people call us just to support a family for Christmas. It's so much more than being a foster parent. We want you to be foster parents, yes we do, but we want you to recognize your limitations and what you're able to do, and you may not be able to go full-fledged foster parent. And if you do want to go full-fledged, please call Valerie Ackerman. But there's other ways you can help, and there's other ways you can be involved. And we appreciate that just as much.
And because Christmas is going to be upon us when we blink, how do people, if they want to give to children in foster care, how do they do that? And that may not be an appropriate question to ask this group, but I'm going to throw it out there.
Well, again, you can call 828-426-8200, and Wendy Piley is our social work supervisor who is in charge of our Christmas cheer for our the families that we work with.
Okay, so that's another way to get involved. And maybe it's baby steps to get people from maybe I could be a foster parent, or maybe I could be adoptive parent, to adoption.
Right.
So
And we're there to support you either way.
What have we left out, ladies? What have I forgotten?
Well, we can say that since January, we've done 35 adoptions. So that means that 35 children have found permanent homes through adoption from our agency. So we're excited about that, and that's going to make a lot of children happy at Christmas, and a lot of families.
While you think 35 may not be, maybe a classroom of children,
Oh, yeah, I hadn't thought about it
But-
like that.
that's a big deal. That's 35 lives. Actually, probably you multiply that out, it's way more than 35 lives touched.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, it
And
is.
Joy did a sibling group of 4, and I've done a sibling group of 4. So and those children got to stay together.
That's awesome.
They both did adoptions of 17-year-olds.
Yes.
Oh, yes, we did.
Yes, we do.
So,
And those are rare, and those have to be celebrated.
I think every adoption you do should be celebrated.
oh, that's true. But it is hard, as we talked about teenagers, and so the fact that we were able to find permanent homes so close to them turning 18 and being without those places that they could call home just makes it all the sweeter.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Oh,
That,
thank you.
again, that really should be celebrated.
And if I can do one more plug,
Okay.
we do have children who are also medically fragile. So if there are people who have a calling towards the medical side of things and they want to be foster parents, we have children who really could use some of their expertise.
And I hadn't even thought about medically fragile children, but wow. A lot to think about.
Oh, definitely.
Thank you all for being here today and taking time to sit down and chat with me. I know you are very busy, so thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for
you.
having us.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching Caldwell County Today.